And there we are with a very special interviewee, a member, a philosopher, and a change maker, Else Kramer. I'm so happy to have you. Welcome.
I'm so happy to be here. It's so exciting, even though it's virtual.
Exactly. Thank God for the internet. We can do so many things through these computers. So, Elsa, let's start with the beginning. What is it that you do? I know that is already a great story. So let's start there.
Yeah, listen, okay. Where to begin, right? What do I do? Well, what I do right now is I'm on a path to educate the world about what people with different brains look like. And surprise, surprise, they look very much like you. And that we need to stop telling them to be normal. I think that is the bottom line, right? Because it hurts people. And so my job is coaching leaders who actually lead people like that, who are neurodiverse, neurodivergent. There's a lot of argument about the terminology. I don't want to get into that. We can, if anybody watching this wants to fight about that, just get in touch. Happy to have a debate. But there's so many people who are very smart who are actually suffering because they think there's something wrong with my brain, because they have been conditioned to think that way. So that's what I do. I create awareness. I speak for corporates. I coach people who get stuck and think, oh, I am so smart, but things aren't happening for me. Why is that? Right. But I also speak about autism, ADHD, giftedness, and how we can normalize it, but also how we can sort of stop asking people to do things that they aren't capable of doing, because that's just mean.
Did I tell you that I love you?
Already, thank you.
No, but I think it is so beautiful that if you see something and know something that is of value for bigger audience, that you just go for it, and especially if this specific knowledge and expertise is that, then I really applaud all the efforts to find that audience and to get that message where it should be. And I
just quickly, yes. I have to say, like, I had a really fun business before, teaching people to look at the world with fresh eyes. But this is like when I discovered this, and I discovered I was autistic. I knew I was gifted from a very young age, but I didn't know I was autistic. Everything started falling into place. And then I was like, I have to do this. It's not even an option, right? It's like, I have to make this change. And yeah, so here we are.
Awesome. And okay, I'm just going to ask a very big and open.
So many questions.
What exactly? So what change? What change is it that you seek to have?
Okay, so I think it's twofold. So it's internal and external, right? So for the people who are different, to increase their awareness, like, okay, so maybe I am different. Maybe I am super smart, especially with minorities and women. There's a massive underdiagnosis of intellectual giftedness because it's not expected, interestingly, right? Again, we can talk about that for a very long time. And also with autism, ADHD, etc. So there's the internal awareness and acceptance, like, okay, so maybe this is my brain. This is what I have to deal with. There's good shit and bad shit, as for all the humans. And then there's the societal awareness and acceptance, right? So both of those, especially in a workplace where so many people suffer unnecessarily because they're like, my God, for example, the ADHD brain, right? Why can't I plan? Why can't I meet my deadlines? Or people with autism who are like, why am I exhausted? I want to work with headphones on, but my manager won't let me because they think it's antisocial. All those things, it's got to stop.
And oh man, I really think it is so important that we get a lot of mistakes out of, let's say, general thinking on stuff like this. And the tagline of the Black Sheep community is outliers make all the difference.
Exactly, right.
So can you like maybe philosophize a little bit upon the difference that could be made if these people are allowed to be themselves and share their brilliance with the world?
Well, I did the math because I also have a background in maths. And I think I came to, when you just look at intellectual giftedness, I think it's like 25 million people who are super smart. at least, right? And and now I can't recall whether that was just English speaking, but anyway, it's massive. It's a massive figure. And so many of those people are actually stuck at home with burnout or bore out or a combination of both, or they aren't even finding a job or aren't able to contribute what they could contribute to the world with their amazing minds. And I'm not saying they should all be Nobel Prize winners, right? I'm not saying, oh, they should find a cure for cancer. Maybe someone will. That'd be amazing. It could also be very local, right? And very specific. What we interestingly choose to call small, right, can still have a massive impact. It doesn't all need to be televised and award-winning stuff.
Mhm.
But they're not doing anything because they just can't find a way to fit in. And that's exactly what needs to stop. They don't need to fit in. It doesn't work that way.
So if they don't need to fit in, what is it that they need or should get?
So they need to accept themselves as they are,
Uh-huh.
learn to set boundaries, ask for what they need, like in accommodation,
Uh-huh.
right? But also accept that there are people who won't understand, right? And make choices accordingly. So
Mm.
some people are like, but if I do that, or if I really, ask for what I need, then people will hate me at work, I'll be ostracized, et cetera, et cetera. That is a risk for sure, right? And you need support in that, and you want to get HR on board. But you have two options, right? You can spend the rest of your life like hiding and exhausting yourself, and it usually does end in burnout or bore out, or you can try. Maybe it won't work, but that just means you need to find something else to do,
Mhm.
find a better place. Yeah.
And if I'm listening to you with skeptical ears, um,
Yes.
one could say that would risk isolation. That means risking isolation.
Yes.
That
Yes.
probably that is not, well, you say yes already. That
No,
I
but
wanted to
no, listen, it does.
it
No,
does?
let's be honest
Yeah.
about it. Listen, not everybody likes me, right?
Well, same,
So
same, same, same,
yeah,
same.
so me being me, I totally risk isolation. But then I would say, what does that mean, right? So
Thank you.
isolation in what context?
Yes.
So in a corporate situation, you have to find allies, right? Because it's very dangerous to be isolated. That would just be a bad strategy. So that's also what I teach, like the leaders I coach and the people I coach, like, we are going to play the game of work. Right. So how does the game of work work? You do need allies. You can't be like this lone revolutionary fighter, because you will just, burn yourself out. So absolutely, you do run the risk of isolating yourself, also in social life. But the amazing thing is that we now have a thing called the internet, and you can find like-minded people. Hello. Right. Which is
So
so amazing.
exactly. So isolation is maybe then limited to a physical sphere,
Yes.
that I do not relate to everybody or all the people in the street or all the moms at school, or, well, that's just
Yes.
from my life. It's more
Yep.
that I am finding more creative ways to connect with my tribe.
Yes, totally. And I think we need to let go of the idea that we are able to socialize with all those people, right? I suffered for such a long time because I thought I was such a failure, because I freaked out like the other moms in school. I even bought like this really impressive, Philippa K coat to like kind of hide in when I went to pick up my child, so I can put up the collar and not talk to people, because I was just so scared by them, because they were not my people mostly. Right.
Exactly.
And I blame myself, like, you're so antisocial. You need to get out more, right? You need to be nicer to people. Why? But especially
Mm,
as women, we're so socialized to be pleasing, kind, friendly, nice
mm,
to everybody, right? And
mm,
it just, can you tell it hurts already? Yeah.
mm, mm, mm. So I think then the fear of being isolated should be let go so that you do find your connections.
I think you need to own your power, right? So when
Ah,
you're
okay.
afraid of being isolated, you're like, oh my God, I'm isolated. There's nothing I can do. Help, help, right? Why? Unless, I mean, you have no internet, you are tied to your house. Okay, right? But if you can move your
Uh-huh,
body and leave the
uh-huh,
house,
uh-huh.
if you have an internet connection, you have the power, to not be isolated.
I like the sound of that, those three words when it coming from your mouth. Own your power.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hearing a book, also.
Oh, I like that. And there is a book in the making, but it has no title yet. So I'm
Okay,
writing it down.
why not? Why not? Why not own your power? Because I think that as long to the extent that my perspective on your target audience is correct, I think that most of them will recognize this sensation that actually I'm pretty strong,
Yeah.
and
Right.
at the same time this crazy inner dialogue, like what's wrong with me.
Yeah. And listen, all the people I work with are incredibly kind people, right?
Mhm.
So they are usually, yes, they're incredibly smart. They have so much to give to the world, but they also feel, which I call gifted guilt. Like because I have all these gifts, I need to do more, be more, right? Sort of finish the work my colleagues can't finish or help everybody out. And that is just bullshit, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really an important message to get out there, Elsa. And so we are a community, right? So
Yeah.
so suppose there's people watching this and they think, yes, I want to help Elsa. How could they help you reach your targets in terms of reaching audiences? What is it that you're looking for, and how can maybe one of the members is watching, and they want to
Yeah.
help. What is it that you
So
need?
listen, invite me to come and speak at your company or at your event. I very happily speak about neurodiversity and what it looks like in a workspace. Um, Read my articles on LinkedIn. I've, for example, written an article about smart shaming, how especially smart people tend to get shamed and like don't think you're better than other people, et cetera, contribute to the dialogue there. That is very important. And also like create awareness, like even, regardless of me, if this is all very new to you, start reading up on it, educate yourself, and start creating this safe space also for other people who are trying to find their way in the world with different brains, right? Make
Love
it a
it.
better place.
Love it. So we will put your LinkedIn profile link underneath the interview so that people can read you and contribute to your content. Um, and when it comes to positive impact, a little bit going back to where we began the conversation, um, this is quite intuitive from my end. Maybe you can either correct me or back me at whatever you see fit. Um, but when it comes to positive impact, I feel that this profile, these people, and their sensitivity
Mm,
really matter
yes.
when it comes to inconsistencies in and around the systems that
Yes.
run the world.
Yeah.
How is that relevant, and how, I don't know, well, just as a
Well, no,
subject,
I think your
can you
intuition is spot on, right? So many of these people have this heightened sense of justice and injustice, right? And that also really tends to trip them up. They see things happen within companies and they're like, this is not right. Whether it is like low level corruption, internal politics, et cetera, giving people a leg up, whatever it is. But I think the way they react can be very counterproductive, right? So again, it's an internal reaction, like this is not right, this needs to stop, getting very angry and indignant and complaining to a lot of people. And that's it. Right. And again, in these situations, you want to be very strategic. You don't want to be that one person fighting a big system. So you need to, again, think, okay, this isn't right. What are my options? How can I think about this? How can I create a movement to change this? Is that even what I want to devote my life to, right? Or at least this part of my life? Or is it better if I go outside this system and like punch at it or whatever it is, and like pull threads
Yes,
however I want to unravel it. Yeah.
yes, yes,
But
yes,
the
and
anger is never productive. I mean, and it can feel so nice. And I used to be I started out working in politics and I was so angry with so many things. It was just not right. And the world, it was insane, right? This energy is amazing, but you have to channel it into something productive.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. You have to channel it. I
Yeah.
always remember, um, uh, what is vijver in English? how you say that? Is that a
A
pond?
pond.
A
A
pond, yeah.
pond. Yeah.
Okay. I remember reading about anger as an emotion, and I have this one sentence that is always stuck in my mind when it comes to anger, and it says, "You're angry? Great. Why did you go and dig a pond?"
Yeah. Well, perfect. Right?
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, that is what you should do with that anger. It has so much energy. Just
Yes.
don't go beat
Totally.
up other people. Just dig a pond or
Or
something similar.
yourself, right? Like
Yeah.
when it internalizes, it can actually, anger interestingly can turn into depression. When it isn't given room, right, it can kind of freeze you and you can actually get very depressed. And I do want to say one more thing about this, because a lot of gifted humans discount their emotions. And you do not want to do that. That is one of the biggest things I work on with people as well. Like, you get to have emotions, right? Instead of running away from them, because you're human and you do not need to be wiser than that, right? Because it's a physical thing. And you need to experience the emotions and sort of finish the stress cycle so you can actually process whatever happens to you. And gifted people tend to grow up with a lot of trauma, for example, like being bullied in school, all the things. So instead of pushing all that away and trying to manage it with your brain, it is also really important to actually allow emotions like anger. Don't beat up other people, but feel it, right? Find a way to express it. Same with grief, sadness, etc. It is part of the human experience.
Hmm. It's almost it's almost like a special chapter in emotional intelligence books
Yes.
for gifted or
Yeah.
intellectually gifted people. I mean, that should be your other book. Um,
Yeah. Listen, it's insane how little there is for gifted people. There's a couple of books, but not that many. And there are so many of us.
exactly.
Yeah.
I can
It's a
so
big,
relate to that. And then for gifted children, all the pedagogues, they jump on them and they get all
yes.
excited and let's make brilliant blah blah out of this. But what about the others? Like
Yes.
for introverts, there's massive amounts of books. Um, where's the tips and tricks for the smart people?
Yes. For the gifted adults,
Yeah,
right? It's insane.
yeah,
Yep. So
exactly.
that's where I am.
Love it. No, but emotional intelligence for gifted adults. Why not,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have a cough.
That's okay. And then another thing, and I love that you're mentioning this, because I did some just some very basic questionnaires in Facebook groups. And one of the biggest things people said they were struggling with was actually loneliness, right? So feeling, again, we're back with the isolation, but I think it's a deeper kind of loneliness, in the sense that when you were growing up, there wasn't anybody to kind of mirror you and validate you as you were with your way of engaging with the world. And that is something you have to set right. That is so important, to like find other people who validate the way you experience the world and life. And that is just, it's massive. I think for me, like even in group coaching, when other people, when they come to the group and they see other people get coached, they're like, oh my God, I'm not alone, right? I'm not insane. I'm just different.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I love it. I love it, Elsa. I know that we could talk on for hours probably,
Yes.
but for now we have to wrap it up. So, is there a final something that you would like to say to our members who've been enjoying this conversation and probably resonate with what you've been sharing and what you're working on? What would be your maybe advice or something, a piece of hope for them? What would you say?
Well, I think I mean, first of all, there's always hope, right? And we live in an amazing age where it's so much easier to fix that isolation. But what I want to help people start doing is create that awareness. Where am I sort of disowning myself? Where am I making myself be what I am not? It can be very simple, like beating yourself up for not liking to go to parties, which I did for years, right? Like, oh my God, why can't I be nicer? Why can't I be more social? Stop that. And just like, okay, that is apparently what I am like, right? So how, instead of rearranging me to fit the world, how can I start rearranging the world so it fits me?
Love it. Love it. Don't try to fit in the mold, just
Yeah.
change the mold. Love it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.